Mr. Ambassador, we would like to thank you so much for sharing your time with us in our program for this short interview, the objective of which is for us to let our viewers get to know better the sitting ambassadors of the countries that the Philippines has relations with. Okay, let's start with the initial objective of the show, which is for our viewers to know more about the persona behind the name Harry K. Thomas Jr. Now, I understand your family was here on a visit recently. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Well, my ate came here with her husband and youngest son and spent 10 days here, and she shopped till she dropped. We also went to Baguio, enjoyed that, especially the Ben Cobb Museum, and we went to Tali Beach, really loved snorkeling and swimming there. It was a really great visit, and I was so happy that she could come here to experience Filipino hospitality and friends.
Maybe we can just go back to your childhood in America. What can you tell us about it? Where you grew up, your family life then?
I grew up in Queens, New York. I was born in Manhattan. My mom was a social worker. She went to New York University. My father had many jobs, including his own business. He was a graduate of college in the South. And they were hard workers from South Carolina who moved to New York after my dad spent 10 years in the service. He was in World War II and Korea, and he served here in Leyte.
Tell us, Mr. Ambassador, who among the two has the most influence in your life now?
My mom and my dad. I can't, I think of my dad constantly. And my mom just is a source of constant giving. She was a disciplinarian in the family, and I'm happy I was just able to be in New York for her 87th birthday party. And the day of her birthday, I took her second trip to Red Ribbon for mango cake.
What about education? Where were your interests then? Did these interests affect your career decisions and adulthood? Or somewhere along the way, did you count crossroads in deciding in which career path to pursue?
We read the New York Times every day as fifth graders. It gave us our first interest in domestic affairs and world affairs. And then I went to Columbia University for graduate school because I wanted to be an urban planner, which I was for 3 years. And it was a wonderful experience. The person I was working for was the person who recommended I join the Foreign Service, Ed Logue. So I took the Foreign Service examinations and joined in 1984.
If I may just go back to your younger life, Mr. Ambassador, was it a tough one in school?
No, I had an idyllic life. All the boys cut the grass once a week, and we washed our parents' cars in New York. You got to have 2 cars, and my father always had a Mercury and a Cadillac, and we washed them on Saturdays and played basketball and baseball. It was really like an Ozzie and Harriet life. In high school, my father had a store, and I used to have to go work there while my friends went to parties, and I wasn't happy about that all the time. And I'm glad that you asked that question, because it's a tribute to my parents and the fact that they had been able to go to college and also take advantage of the GI Bill and provide a very, very nice life, as did all the families on my street. Most of the people were civil servants in New York City. They were all at my mom's birthday party. They're elderly now, so they don't like to take off their coats. They're shivering all the time. And it reminded me of the Philippines, because when they were getting ready to leave, they took out these huge pieces of foil paper, their to-go pads, so they were going to put their food in to take home. For summers, I would go to my parents' hometown of King Street, South Carolina, a town of 3,500 people. I have a lot of cousins on both sides, because my daddy is one of 10 and my mom is one of 8. So I got a lot of cousins.
Tell us, when and how did you embark in government service?
I took the Foreign Service exam, and in December of 1982, and then I remember March 17th, 1983, I took the orals, and St. Patty's Day in Washington, and then you have to go through a background check. And I remember I'd go home, because I was working, living in Brooklyn, go home to my street, and my neighbor, especially Mr. McCann, saying, "Harry, the police were looking for you. We told them we didn't know you." So I had to encourage them. It's okay to talk to these people. They're not trying to arrest me. And I was fortunate enough to enter the Foreign Service as a political officer. Did visa work in Lima, Peru. And then I've served in Zimbabwe, Nigeria, India, Bangladesh, and now the Philippines.
In the service of your country, your other postings included India, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, and Peru. But this is your first post in an ASEAN country. Did you find it like you have a lot of adjustments to do?
I wanted to see the world, and that's why I've tried to serve globally. And to me, this is just another step on my journey. And as I get older and have less hair, I learn to listen more, ask more questions, be a little more humble, and maybe I would have been when I was 28 and joined the Foreign Service. And Filipinos have been quite open and telling me about their country. And I think one of the things that I seriously have learned here is to look at somebody else's perspective. I've met people who blame the United States for the bombing of Manila during World War II, something that we saw as a necessary evil to end the Japanese occupation, but people who lost their family members, churches that were burned, and I think that's something I don't agree with, but it's taught me you have to look at another perspective, and that doesn't mean that these folks are wrong. Even if you don't agree, you can understand.
May I say something, Mr. Ambassador? You see, many Filipinos are watching the History Channel, and in their account, they blame the U.S. in the Intramuros debacle.
You know, our job as a diplomats is try to ensure that there are no more wars, so there are no more burnings and bombings of Intramuros by anyone, and that's why I'm glad I'm in the diplomatic corps. But I understand.
With all due respect, may I just pick up from what you said earlier? You said you wanted to see the world, so why didn't you join the Navy then?
I'm glad you asked that. My whole life I had wanted to go to West Point. And then I met these Naval Academy guys. And I didn't, they were concerned because I wore glasses whether I would qualify. But another friend of mine got the appointment. Earl, and he retired as a lieutenant colonel. And I used to go, oh man, you know, that for many years that bothered me that I didn't get to go to West Point or the Naval Academy as much as I love going to Holy Cross. And when I was sitting in Dhaka, Bangladesh, which was my first ambassadorial post, watching TV, and they showed the long gray line about West Point. And that's when it all left, and I realized, okay, my career has been pretty good in the Foreign Service, so let this go.
Mr. Ambassador, we'll just pause for a short while and be right back with you for the resumption of our very interesting interview.